So also we are live on YouTube.
Hi everyone, good evening. Yeah, Bhanu, hello. Yeah, put some messages, guys, in the chat. How are you all? Good evening. Yep. Hello, Kritika, Sanju. Hi, Shri. Okay, it's difficult to read out all the names. Sujit, Subeta, Anju, Shreya, Balaji, Manav, Rakhi. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So yeah, it is bit difficult to read out all the names because it is scrolling at a lot feed. So first of all, I hope you all are safe, guys, and following all the safety guidelines and the protocols in this Corona times. I hope you and your family are safe. Okay, that would be my first thing. You follow all the guidelines, guys. And second, we know why we are here today. So we are here to learn HTML and CSS from scratch. So might have seen already Siddharth sir, he had taken this JavaScript Essentials a few days back. Now we are also again he's back with this sessions with HTML and CSS beginners for beginners. It's a like you will start learning from scratch. If you want to make your career into web development, if you don't know anything about web development, and this is the perfect course for you. Even if you have some bit like some little idea about this HTML and CSS, then you are at the right and perfect place, guys, and you are in the hands of the right person, Siddharth sir. So you would enjoy this session. You would learn a lot in this 3 day session, guys. You will learn the basics of HTML and CSS, how to design a page, how you would make use of CSS, what is the use of CSS in there, and all. I'm not a web development person, so I don't want to speak much about this HTML and CSS thing because yes, I'm a non-web dev guy. So Siddharth sir is the one who would be better addressing you on this course and thing. So I'll before we start with this session, I just want to mention a few points. First thing is you all put attendance daily, guys. Okay, attendance link would be shared in the chat. So you have to or you need to put attendance daily in this 3 day session in order to be eligible for the examination. And when you give exam and when if you qualify for it, then you would be getting certificate from us. Okay, so we'll have a different virtual convocation for this batch for this course where we would actually announce your result live. And along with that, you'll also receive some surprise. We have planned for some surprise along with that. So that's where you should go. So right now you focus on this session, 3 day session, focus on learning the basics of web development, guys, HTML, CSS to start your career in web development. So I'll not take any more time. So Siddharth sir, it's like all yours. You can carry it ahead now. Yeah. Hello, Siddharth sir, are you there?
Yeah, I was not able to unmute myself. Sorry. Hi, good evening. Thank you, Subrat. Good evening, everyone. Hope you guys are doing safe. Yeah, so we are here to start with the web development course, of course. It's just the basics, the HTML and CSS, the foundations that we will be talking about. Um, I'm pretty sure that everyone has, everyone who's here in this room, everyone has done some coding in the HTML and CSS part. But of course, I'm here to help you guys and not to, tutor or mentor you. To put it in a different way, I'm here to help you guys with any, obstacles that you face in this journey that you will be starting. So uh, let's start. What we are going to discuss today is the response cycle and the HTML basics. Okay, so uh, if we are talking about the response cycle, okay, so the first part of the web development, the first word of web development is web. What is web? How does it work? Okay, so that's one of the most important things. some of you might think, why do we have to know all these stuff? But it is very important. So in this course, actually, when we are talking about HTML and CSS, people would think that we are starting with the front end part, but it's not the case. We are also talking about, when we talk about HTML and CSS, it's not only restricted to front end, it is also a part of the back end. Okay. And why the response cycle is important for you guys. So there are people who take a choice out of web development to be a front end developer and to be a back end developer. So if you are a back end developer, you have to know how this uh, the whole response cycle works. What is TCP, what is client, what is server, right? So without taking much of your time, I mean, let's get started. So if you are just getting into web development, chances are you think you know how the web works, okay? At least on a basic level. But then you try to explain how a basic website works and draw a blank. So what does an IP address mean? How does the client server model work exactly? Development frameworks are powerful these days, like React, Vue, Django, Laravel. So powerful, in fact, that it's easy for us newcomers to lose track of the basics of how the web works. Okay, so I know, I mean, I did. So I lost track of it, and no shame admitting it, the web is a little complicated. And it's only when you start engineering in the backend that you realize, okay, how important those fundamentals are. If you're a front end developer, not much of these things would come across in your work. But if you're a backend developer, these things do come across. Okay, so the first part is how the web works. Okay, so a basic web search. Okay, let's start with a basic web search. Let's start somewhere we have all been before. I mean, just when you can just type one second. Uh, when you type something like GitHub, okay, github.com. So this is something that is a request that you are sending, and what the server gives us is the response. Okay, now this is the whole thing that I've just told you in one line. It's the whole thing. Okay, but how does it work? Okay, as simple as that transaction might seem, there's a ton of magic happening under the hood, trust me. And I mean, just let's dive right into it. This is not needed actually. So I mean, I just gave you an example of how what a simple URL you are putting in is just one request response cycle. Okay, this is just one request response cycle, and most of you guys always search something on the internet, surf the internet. So this is how it would work. I'll just give you the brief explanation of it. So some important terms to understand, okay, if you want to grok the uh, secrets of the world wide web. Okay, www. So the first thing is a client. Okay, now client is an application such as Chrome or Firefox that just runs on a computer and is connected to the internet. So its primary role is to take the interactions and translate them into requests. Okay, so just what we did right now, the Chrome, it takes in the response, okay, the request, and it gives you out the response. Okay, so this interactions and it translates them into request to another computer called a web server. Okay, so although we typically use a browser to access the web, you can think of the whole computer, your whole laptop as the client. Okay, the client piece of the client server model. Okay, so every client computer has a unique address called an IP address, right? So that the computers can use to identify it, right? So how does the web server know, right, who is asking for a request? So that is why you have a unique IP address, right? Now this was about the client. So the client is your own computer, your own machine. Now what is a server? Now server, a machine that is connected to the internet. Now it also has an IP address. Okay, the server waits for a request from other machines. So for example, a client like me, I just put in a request, right, of GitHub. So the server waits for the request and then responds to them. So unlike my computer, or unlike your computer, that is a client which also has an IP address, the server has special server software installed and running. Okay, so it has a special server software installed and running, which tells it how to respond. Okay, it tells you how to respond to the incoming request from your browser. So the primary function of a web server, okay, the primary function of the web server, not the client, the server, is to store, it is to process, and it is to deliver your web pages, right? It is to deliver the web pages to the client, that is us, okay? So there are many types of servers, okay? But always keep in mind what is the functionality of a client. It does the request, right? And what is the server? It gives you the response, okay? So there are many types of servers. It includes web servers, it includes database servers, it includes file servers, application servers, and more. So I mean, we are not getting into the deepest part of the servers, but that's how it is. So now the IP address, okay? What is the IP address? The IP address, the internet protocol address, a identifier for a device, okay? For a computer, a server, a printer, a router, etc. on a TCP IP network, okay? So every computer on the internet has an IP address that it uses to identify, okay, and communicate with other computers, right? So IP addresses have four sets of numbers, right? So you might have seen key, okay, 244.155.65.2, you know. So these are the numbers that are separated by decimal points if you have ever seen an IP address. So this is called the logical address, okay? So in order to locate a device in the network, the logical IP address is converted into a physical address, okay, by the TCP IP protocol software. So these are TCP IP protocols. There are various protocols. If you want to read more about it, you have to search for the OSI models and stuff. So those things are into computer networks. I know we are talking about web servers, web development, so why computer networks and stuff, but please keep in mind that web development and etc, all these are, you know, the blocks, okay, but these are built by all these computer networks, the TCP IP protocols, OSI models, how these packets are, you know, transferred, how you are getting these responses. So it is all very important, okay. Now I told you about the IP address. Now there is another ISP, okay, so internet service provider. So internet service provider is the middleman, okay, it is the middleman between the client and the servers, or okay. So it is you know, for a typical homeowner, it is just the cable company, right? So you see, you are the client, you have the TV, but the cable company is your internet service provider. You understanding? So when your browser gets a request, okay, when your browser gets a request from you, like go to for example github.com, it doesn't know where to look for github.com. So the ISP's job is to do a DNS lookup, okay, to ask what the IP address the site you're trying to visit is configured to. Okay, I'll repeat my statement. So what is the ISP? It's a middleman, okay. So whenever you try to look up for suppose a link called GitHub or anything, Facebook or whatever, so the ISPs, the internet service provider's job is to do a DNS lookup, okay, to ask what IP address is the site you are trying to configure to, okay. So every URL has its own IP address, right? The computers don't understand what is github.com. So the ISP helps, you know, ISP's job is to do a DNS lookup, right? So that is what is ISP, which is very important. Now, what is a DNS? The DNS is a domain name system, right? A distributed database which keeps the um, track of all the computers domain names and their corresponding IP addresses, okay. So uh, I mean, don't worry about how the distributed database works for now, okay. Just know the DNS exists, so users can enter www.github.com or https.github.com, so instead of an IP address, okay. So if the DNS wouldn't exist, right, if the DNS wouldn't exist, every time you will have to put in a IP address of github.com. So how will you remember all the IP addresses? Now you will remember one, you will remember two, but you can't remember, you know, hundreds of sites. There are GitHub, Facebook, Stack Overflow, Free Code Camp, etc., etc., right? So you can't remember all the IP addresses of all those things. So that is why DNS exists, okay. So it keeps the track of the domain names and their corresponding IP addresses. Okay. And now, what is a domain name? So it's used to identify one or more IP addresses. Users use the domain name, the github.com to get to a website on the internet. So that is what is a domain name, okay, into your browser. Now, what is a TCP/IP? Again, it's a protocol. It has a standard set of rules for doing something. It is basically just used to transmit data over the networks. Okay. Then apart from DNS, you have host. Okay. So now a computer connected to a network, it can be a client, a server, or any other type of device, right? So each host has a unique IP address. For a website like google.com, host could be the web server that serves the pages for the website, right? So there's often some mix up between a host and the server, but note they are two different things. Okay, the servers are a type of host, they are a specific machine. Okay, on the other hand, a host could refer to an entire organization that provides a hosting service. Okay, so that's what a host and a server is. I mean, they are different things, right? So don't mix it up. Now, what the URL is, right? You know what the URL is. So now the journey from code to web page, right? So um, let's talk into what is the github.com, right? So the browser passes the information contained in the URL. Okay, so this is the URL, right? So this includes the protocol HTTPS. Okay, so if you check here, you see the HTTPS. I'm sorry, this is the bar that is coming in between, but you guys can check it on your website also, so on your client machine also. So HTTPS is the protocol. Okay, the github.com is the domain name. Okay, so be very clear, you have a URL in your browser. HTTPS is a protocol. Okay, and the domain name is github.com. Okay, and for any other things that you put in, like something like slash, and you get something, right? So after the slash, it's all the resources. Okay, so in this case, there isn't anything after the .com to indicate a specific resource. So the browser knows to retrieve just the main index page. Okay, because I just gave the github.com, right? So the browser gives you the main index page only. Now, if you are logged in, right? If you are logged in, you might be knowing how the GitHub works, right? So you have your repositories, right? So you have your own account, etc., etc. So that is the resource part of the URL. But again, in this URL, the HTTPS is the protocol, uh, github.com is the domain name, and anything after the slash is the resource. Okay. So now the browser communicates with your ISP, okay, the internet service provider, to do a DNS lookup of the IP address for the web server that hosts this github.com. So I just told you, right, how it works. The ISP will do a DNS lookup, okay, for this IP address, for the IP address of github.com. Okay, and then the DNS service will first contact a root name service which looks at this github.com and replies with the IP address. Okay, the DNS will reply with the IP address of the name server, okay, for the .com, okay, top level domain. So these are all a little higher level DNS lookups and top level domain, all these concepts. But the point is, the ISP does a DNS lookup. It gives you an IP address, okay, and for the web server and that hosts that github.com, for the web server that hosts github.com. Okay, so that's how the basic request response model works actually. Instead of github.com, you can also put in your IP address. Okay, you can also put in the IP address of github.com, and you can get the same web page that you want. Okay, but of course you can't remember all the IP addresses, so that is why we use the names of the domain, right? So that was most of the part of a request response cycle, how it works. Okay, again, a quick small recap. You in a very short way, you are the client, you request something, the internet, the middleman, the ISP does something for you. What it does is it asks the it does a DNS lookup, right? And the DNS is the domain name server. It has all the IP addresses and everything that you want, and it does all these things from the root service provider. It takes in the top level domain. So this .com is a top level domain. Okay, it's the and this github.com is a host name. Okay, so the DNS searches for it. It gives you the uh, it gives the ISP the IP address, and then the ISP provides us with the name of it. Okay, so that's how it is done. I mean, that's what is a request response cycle. And yeah, so that was the first part of it. I mean, what a request response cycle is. Hope you guys understood a bit of it. I hope you guys did get some more knowledge of it, what you intended to. Okay, if you face any difficulties, or if you have a little more curiosity to understand what is TCP/IP connections, how the packages, the packages are the whole communication part. So what is a package? How does the communication work? So these things you can always look up into a OSI model. Okay, if you guys want, I will share some resources with you at the end of the session. So the basic part is the OSI model. Okay, the OSI model has various things. Application level. There are seven levels, I think. So 7 layers, I call it. So there are 7 layers, and one of the layers is the transport layer. So in that transport layer, you will learn all about how the communication works. Okay, so that was most of it. I mean, that's what it is. um you can always look up, there are lots of resources that you can read. Okay, now coming from response cycle, we will be talking about a little more about what is HTML. Okay, what is front end development, what is back end development in web development, right? So before getting into HTML, as I told you guys, for web development is divided into two parts. This part is basically for guys who don't know anything about web development. Okay, so if you guys know about web development, please bear with me for like 2-3 minutes. Okay, now web development is basically into two parts. Okay, it's divided into two parts. One is the front end development. Now what is front end development? It's most of the UI. Now what is the UI? The user interface, whatever you look on, right? So when we see the GitHub, right? So when we saw GitHub, there was a nice image of it. So how you see, I mean, the what part you see is the UI, right? So that's the front end part. Okay, now the front end development is obviously the developers who are working on the UI, right? So it includes HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and various frameworks like, right, React, and Bootstrap. So these things are constitutes into a front end development. Okay, if and when you go into the back end part, you will be working with PHP, SQL database, Laravel, MongoDB, etc. So it's all the backend part of it. I mean, how the web, just doing the API calls and everything. Not the fetch part or the Axios part, because that the front end developer can also do, but basically designing the API, right? So that the front end developer can fetch it, so that the endpoint of the API, so that you hit that endpoint, you get some data, right? So that's how the API works, if you guys are familiar with it. So yeah, so that's what a backend developer basically does. I mean, there are lots of it. I might miss something, but there are lots of perceptions about it. So yeah, that is about front end and back end. Now what we are doing is, it's not I mean, only specific to a front end or a back end, because everyone needs to know HTML and CSS to get into web development. Okay, so what is HTML? And I mean, what you if you search about HTML, of course it gives you a lot of definitions, but the most simple definition could be, it's just a building block. Okay, It is just a structure that you have on your web page. Okay, it is just a structure, nothing else. How do you build that structure? That is what we are going to look at. Various things, right? Various HTML elements, various uh, inline or block level elements, how to create a table, how to create a form, right? So whenever you see a form, whenever you see a table on a web page, of course it is made out of HTML. Everything that is on the web page, the basic structure of it is done with HTML. Okay, and all the designing part is the CSS, which we will be doing it tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Okay, so today it's just about HTML. Okay, so what before we start, I am using VS Code. Okay, I'm using VS Code. This is how you create a file called index.html. I mean, just create a file called index.html, and this is the structure of it. Okay, if you want, I will create a new file if you want. So new file. Let's see. Yeah, so this is how the VS Code looks like. Okay, I'm just creating a new file, test.html. Okay, so whenever you create an HTML file, of course, the extension is HTML. Okay, now I have, if you guys are working on VS Code, if you guys are using, then you have Emmet. Okay, Emmet, it's a plugin. So when you do this, okay, what you have to do is you have to put an exclamation mark. Okay, you have to put an exclamation mark and press tab. Okay, exclamation mark and press tab. This is a shortcut to get your whole HTML structure. You guys can try it. So this is how an HTML structure looks like. Now the first part, I mean, if you want to get into the basics of it, so the doc type, so uh, it is telling you what the document type is. So you write HTML, so the document type is HTML, right? HTML lang. So this is the language that we will be following, which is English, of course. And then there is a head tag. Okay. So now again, before getting into other things, just a little basics. Okay, what is an HTML? What are these? What is this? This is the way you write a HTML. Okay, this is called the markup language. So when you uh, also see the full form of it, it is hypertext markup language, right? So this is what is a markup. Okay, this is what is called a markup, and these are the elements. Okay, these are the tags that we are going to use. Okay, so what is a HTML? Now how the structure looks like is, you see there is a HTML tag. So whatever you see, okay, whatever you see here, it is always it will always have an ending. Okay, so here you will always have an ending. You start with this. Okay, open less than and greater than arrows. Okay, and inside that you will put your HTML tag, and then there will be a closing tag before, after less than uh, symbol, there is a backslash. So that's how you close it. Okay, I hope you guys have this much, this small basic things, I'm just going to delete this. Okay, I'll be using this. Okay, so now, see, if you see the HTML tag, it has an ending and it has a start. Okay, so that's how most, okay, not all, most of the elements have. Okay, which don't have an ending tag, we will discuss it later. Okay, so now we have a head tag inside it. Okay, so HTML consists of a head tag, it consists of a body tag. Okay, so the HTML structure looks like this. There is a head tag and a body tag. Now inside head tag there are many other tags, right? So there is a meta tag, there is a title tag, right? So, and inside body, we'll discuss about it later, what does it consist inside a body. But let's go to what is a meta tag. So meta tag defines the metadata about the HTML document. Okay, now what is a metadata? The metadata is a data about a data, right? Information about the data, right? So meta tags always go inside into the head tag. Okay, you can't put your meta tag inside your body tag. Okay, and it's typically used to specify a character set, the descriptions, keywords, right? keywords and the author and the viewport settings and etc etc. So there are a lot of things. So here when you see a cat set, okay, meta cat set, so all guys, these things are important but not that important. The only thing these are important, like why they are important, so that you have a see this initial scale equals to 1.0. Now what that means is the initial zoom of your browser, okay, and the cat set, it specifies the character encoding for the HTML document. So the browser supports UTF-8, so that is a cat set, okay. Now there is a content, so specifies the value associated with the HTTP equiv. So these things are not very important. Like now what is HTTP equiv? It provides a HTTP header, okay, for the value. So as I said, there is a TCP IP connection. So if you read about packages and stuff, you will also see the headers that are passed, right? So these things are not very important, but you should know some of it. I mean, you can just Google about the meta tags and stuff. When all these come into place or into picture is when you are working on a bigger application. So on a bigger application also, these things are the basic things that every HTML page has. But apart from this, you will be also adding some more meta tags. Now, what are these more meta tags? Those are like some Google Tag Manager codes. So if you have ever heard about the SEO, right, search engine optimization. So whenever you type something like um, free code camp or medium.com, so whenever you type those, you will always see that Google gives you the first response, right? Because another, if you create another site which is medium.com, which is hosted on your domain, right, that won't have much publicity and Google won't index it first. Now why Google won't index it first? Because the SEO, the search engine optimization, is higher for it. So when you are creating a large application, right, you will be hosting it, right? For example, now let's say let's upgrade, okay. So if you are creating an application, let's upgrade, and if you want to host it, right, letsupgrade.com, and you want your Google to put it as a first result. Whenever someone types let's upgrade, it should be the first result, right? So in that cases, you use SEO, search engine optimization. And how you use it, there are some various ways. One of the way is you use a Google Tag Manager. You put in some piece of code, and now again that some piece of code comes into the head tag, and that tag would be meta tag, okay. So that piece of code is a meta tag, okay, which is placed inside the head tag, right? So you must know certain things, right? What is the meta tag, and where does it have to be, okay. If you want to get into the details of HTTP equiv or content, what is content, what is width equals to device width, and etc. So you can always read about it. And now width equals to device width, it sets the width of the page, okay, to follow the screen width of the device. So whenever you make your screen small, it should vary, right, depending on the device. So that's what it is. But you can always read about it. It's good to know. I mean, you should know about all these things. Now apart from this, okay, now we have the title. Now title, HTML and CSS. So I'm really sorry, this is troubling me a lot. But if you see the title, if you put in the title in your own HTML element, you can see it over here. If I can remove it. So if you can see the HTML and CSS below stop and share, it's the tab name basically. So whenever you use a tab, I mean, whatever the name on the tab appears, that is the title, okay, the HTML and CSS. So that's how you give the title tag, okay. Now the head tag is, I mean, inside the head tag, most of the part is like this much only, not very important. I wouldn't say not very important, but uh, it's basic structure. You don't even I mean, the VS code automatically gives you this, right? It just, you just put in the exclamation mark and you get the whole structure. So it tells you that okay, this is the standard structure that you should follow, okay. It's important, but it is a standard structure, not to stress about it that much, okay. So this is the title that you are putting in HTML, that I have put in HTML and CSS. You can put in your any any titles, and you can check how it changes, right? Also, if you guys have a doubt that how I'm getting this web page, okay, so if anyone does not have any knowledge about it, so what you can do is, I have a plugin installed, so you can go to your extensions, okay, and you can go to live server, okay. So this is what it's from Ritwik Day, okay. So this is what I have installed, okay. Now this is an extension, and when you install that extension, okay, once done, click 1 second, I'll just close this, okay. Yeah, I'll just delete it. So what you can do is, after installing that extension called live server, okay, live server, you can right click on this index.html, and the first option I get is open with live server, okay. So when you do that, you will get the same thing, okay. Now what it does is, it's the simple I mean, it's just for the reloading part, okay. So for example, now I have finished response cycle, so I'm closing this, okay, I'm removing this, okay. And when I save it, hopefully it gives me the, okay, so it gives me the result, right? So that is what a live server is. It is basically just to reload your page and give out the results that you are putting in your HTML file, okay. Now that was the head part, okay. The head part, I think it should be clear. After the head comes the body tag, okay. Now what is the body tag? The body tag is the simple uh, I mean, the most important structure, you would say, because without the body tag, you won't have anything inside your HTML file, okay. You won't you can't put in anything on your web page, okay. So you have to put in your body tag, and inside the body tag I have put in something, right? So there's a div and there's an h2 element, okay. Now as you see, I had told you all HTML elements have an ending, right? So this is the ending. So what we have done here is the body tag, okay. The body tag is the most uppermost part of the web, okay. So the most uppermost part of it, and inside that we have div, okay. Now what I have done here is, since it is the most uppermost part of the body, uppermost part of the web page, it is wrapped, okay. So whenever someone uses a term ki wrap it around it, so we wrap, I mean, what we mean by wrap is just open and you put in something and you close it. So that's what a wrap is, okay. Not RAP, it's WRAP, okay, wrap. So now again, if you see, there is a wrapping of H2 inside the div, okay, a wrapping of H2 inside the div. Now what is a div? What is an H2? Okay, let's see what we will, I mean, let's see all those elements, okay. Now there are various many, actually not various, there are many HTML tags, okay. Now one of those tags is the div tag, okay. This is how you write. Now what I have done here is, if you are using VS Code, of course, so you have the Emmet with you. It's a plugin that it's an extension actually, but it before all those older versions in VS Code, the Emmet plugin, you had to install it separately, but now it comes in with the VS Code, okay. So what I'm doing here is, I just write the tag name, okay, the HTML tag name, and I put a and I enter a tab, okay. So this is the shortcut method, okay. You can write it if you want this way also. So you put a small, I mean, less than symbol, then and then you put a greater than symbol. And if you are new, then you can also try that, because you just get the way of using it, right? But what I'll do is, I'll just put in div and I'll enter tab, okay. So that gives me this, okay. Now what is a div element? Okay, now almost most of the elements in, or most of the tags, I must say, in HTML serve a similar purpose, okay. It gives you a structure, okay. Now a div is again a structure, okay. Now I will come to a part where I will explain div a little, in a little more theoretical part, where we will discuss about inline and block level elements. Okay, what are those in HTML? But for right now, I'm just using a div as a wrapper. Okay, now what am I wrapping into it? Okay, we'll see. So whatever you want to write on your web page, okay, there are various ways to write. Okay, you have heading tags. So heading tags come in h1. Okay, um let's say this h1, then h2. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste it. Okay, and there is h3, similarly h4, and h6. Okay, so there are 6 types of heading. Okay, there the h7 does not exist. Okay, don't try it. But you have 6 tags. Okay, you have 6 headings. Okay, now these come under the heading tag. Okay, now whenever someone tells you, okay, use a heading tag, so you can always ask them, okay, which heading tag, h1 or h2 or something, some other, right? So what it does is it is just a way of writing something, right? So when you see my web page, it is basically the font size, right? The font size is getting less and lesser, right? So h6 is the smallest, right? And h1 is the biggest. Okay, now when will you use this? You see, it's a heading tag. Okay, so now what do you mean by the heading tag? I mean, it goes by the name. But so you have various headings on a page, right? You have about us, you have contact us, right? So there you can use your heading, right? Now another thing is another tag is a p tag. Okay, now p tag is a paragraph tag. Okay, now what is p tag? When you use it, you use, I mean, whenever you are putting in some 2 or 3 lines content, right? So you use a paragraph tag, because I mean, see, you can use a h3 h4 tag also. Okay, but it just it is not right. I mean, it won't give you any error, right? But it just does not serve the purpose of it. When you put in h1, h2, h3, it's the heading, right? So you can't put in for a 6 line content, and you will wrap it around a h6. That doesn't make sense, because 6 lines cannot be a header. It cannot be a heading. Now what is a heading? You put in the first, I mean, you have to highlight it, right? It's the main part of it, right? So that's what a heading is. And you shouldn't use a heading for a bigger content. You just use a heading for a header. Okay, for something, like contact us, about us, my page, my profile, etc., etc. You got the point, right? And in p tag, it's just random content. Now what I've done here is, again, Emmet gives you this. So you type in lorem, lorem, okay, lorem, and you put in a tab. So it gives you some content. This is just a dummy content that it gives you. So right, so this is some content, right? So this is some content. It is of 4 lines, right? So this is something that you have to wrap around a p tag and not an h6 tag. So this is what I was talking about. So now when you see again, this is where you use a p tag. Okay, now another tag would be a small tag. Okay, because we are talking about p tag, that is why I took out the small tag also. Usually it's not very uh, useful, but you might find in some cases the font size is very small. Now what the small does is, what the small tag does is, uh, when you have a pay tag, okay, the small tag is some percentage smaller. Okay, some percentage smaller of the pay tag. Okay, so for example, if what I have to do here is, I'll just cut this out. Okay, I'll just cut this out. I'll save it. Okay, so now inside the p tag, I will put in a small tag, a small tag. Okay, now what this is, I just told you. So the small tag is some percentage smaller of the p tag. So it is not only restricted to p tag, it is restricted to the, I mean, it is constituting to the parent. Okay, so it is some percentage smaller to the parent. Now, what is the parent here? The parent is the p tag here, right? Because that is what is wrapping it, right? So the parent, then the child, right? That is how it works. So here inside, I am putting in small tag, right? I'll put in uh, the content. I'll save it, right? So when you see now, the small tag is a little smaller. Okay, so that is what it does. It is just some percentage smaller than the the parent of it, right? So that's what a small tag all does is. Okay, I'll just go back to it. Yeah, this is how it looks. Okay, now this is another. Now we have an h1 tag. We have the p tag. Okay, we have the body tag. We have the div tag. Okay, I'll come to some more tags before we jump onto the inline and block level elements, which is very important. Okay, now apart from div tag, or there are various tags. So just like a div tag, you can also use a section tag. Okay, so if you put in a section tag here and you put in this part of it inside the section tag. Okay, and I'll just comment this out. It won't make any difference. Okay, so it's like the purpose I just told you, right? So most of the html elements, just give the same part. Okay, just give you out the same results. Okay, but the it why html is important, because it determines how you code it. Okay, how you are coding it. Because um, now see, if I remove this section tag, okay, I'll replace it with another html tag, which is called as a footer tag. Okay, see, again, the footer tag also gives you the same result. Okay, it's not doing much of a difference, but it's not a footer, right? It's something that you have on the start of your page, but you can't write it as a footer, right? So that's what it is. You have similar to footer, you have a header. The header also gives the same result. Okay, I'm saving it. Okay, I'm saving it. See, it's not, if I don't save it, I get a small white dot next to index.html, if you can see. Okay, my cursor. So I'm saving it, and still there is no difference, because most of the tags gives you the same result, except for now if you say h1 and p tag, no, not those, but many tags like header tag, then you will have a footer tag, then you have a side tag, then you have uh, this div tag. Okay, so these are all tags that give you the same result, but the way you code it is like very important. Because if you are creating a nav bar, right, if you're creating a menu, so that is always on the top of your web page, right? So that you can wrap around a header tag, right? And if you have a footer, suppose like if you have seen many companies have this, right, copyright, right, copyright 2021, right? And you have some small links over there, like about us, contact us on the left hand side, right? So these are some, just the coding ways that you have to follow. I mean, of course, it's up to you, but if you want the other person to like your code, it's very clear. So when you see this, right, I will understand, okay, this is the header part, so I will have to inspect something, right? I will see your, okay, the menu code is inside a header tag, which looks nice. Then you have the copyrights code in your footer tag, so I understand, okay, this is a footer, you can separate it out. Now those are some big level applications we are not talking here about, but in bigger level applications, right, you will not write everything in one page, right? You will separate things out, because if you want to fix a bug, right, if you want to search something, or you want to fix a bug, you can't go and search in like 5,000 lines of code in one page, right? So that is why you divide all those 5,000 lines into maybe 10 pages, and you put in a separate components out of it, right? You're getting my point. But that's the whole part of it. uh, don't use don't use header tags or footer tags just for a normal section. So you have a section tag for it. Okay, now again, it's a very very good habit that, okay, we have a header, we have a section, and we have a footer, right? But inside a header, footer, or section, we can always, and we should always wrap something around it. Okay, and that's when you wrap it around a div. It won't make any difference, trust me, it won't make any difference. But this is what a good piece of coding is, good part of HTML is. Okay, you can always put in some wrapper around it. Okay, just so that the code looks nice. It is absolutely not necessary that you put in a div tag, but it is, a coding standard that every HTML not HTML actually, every developer, every web developer follows, every good web developer. Okay, uh, okay, now coming on to, okay, I can tell you some more tags. So there are image tags, of course you can put in images also. I'm not going through all the tags, but you can try it, you can take up a homework for you guys, that exercise, I won't call it as a homework. So the you can try the image tag on your own. Okay, tell me if you find it difficult. Okay, don't do it now, of course you can do it later. But there is an image tag, then there are label tags, then there is a nav tag. Okay, now nav is again a nav bar tag. Okay, so this is how it looks. Nav, it is for navigation. So again, it won't change anything, right? It won't change anything, but what it does is it just gives you, or it just gives your senior developer an idea. Okay, he has built the navigation and he has wrapped it around the nav. Okay, every piece of code can be wrapped around the nav part. Okay, for the navigation menu. So it just gives your senior developer, or when you are going for an interview also, right? He will just tell you, okay, right, just uh, just make a nav bar or something like that. So that is where you have to uh, not make the wrapper as a div tag. See, I'm being very specific. It's the parent wrapper. Okay, I'm talking about the parent wrapper, the topmost level wrapper. Of course, you will be using div tags inside nav. Okay, I mean it depends on your case, but you will be using that. But it shouldn't be your parent or most uppermost wrapper element, right? So when you wrap it around a nav, it gives you extra brownie points. Or if when you're making a header, it will give you an extra brownie point. So now you can imagine, right? If you are making a header, you have the header tag on the topmost part of it, right? And then inside that header, you will have a nav part of it, right? And inside that nav, you will have a div and all those other things that you want to put it, right? So that's what the basic idea of how the structuring should look like. Of course, I have not discussed all the tags, but I'm just giving you a general idea, because I mean it's not a I mean HTML is not a thing that you will find very difficult. Of course, most of the people will find it very easy, I'm very sure, but it is just how good you write your code. It really matters a lot when you go into your company, and when you're working, your senior web developer will scold you, will embarrass you in front of everyone if your code is not right. And take note of this thing, it will happen. Okay, so no senior web developer or no senior developer is like, I mean if you guys are lucky then it's okay, but people do embarrass you in front of everyone कि ये देखो क्या code लिखा है इसने, कुछ भी लिखता है. That's not what should happen, right? So that is when you uh, follow all these standards. Okay, now apart from this p tag, let's the image tag is a exercise for you. You can try an image tag, see how it works. Okay, I'll be putting a anchor tag. Okay, now what is an anchor tag? What it does is, let's see. Okay, let's say GitHub. Okay, now when you save an anchor tag, okay, you will see the anchor tag color. Okay, the color of the anchor tag is always different from the normal header or p tags. Okay, now what this does is, it if you see, if you hover over your anchor tag. Okay, I'll just zoom in if you guys can't see, or I'll just remove these things. Okay, I hope you guys understood this. Yeah, so this is the anchor tag. Now when you hover over it, you get a cursor, right? So when you get a cursor, the of course you guys are all young, you know, when you have a cursor, you know that it is a link, right? It is selectable, right? So when you click on it, something would happen. In our case, nothing is happening. It is just reloading our page because why it is just reloading and nothing is happening? Because our href, right? Href. Now what is this? Okay, for I mean, till now we have seen only tags, right? We have seen tags like this, opening and closing, right? But now what is this href? So now href, sorry, I just pasted the wrong thing. Now what is href? Okay, href is a property. Now, okay, it's a property, or you can call it as an attribute also. So it's an attribute, let's say. So without the attribute href, anchor tag won't work. Okay, as you can see, when I click on GitHub, nothing is happening, right? So we want something to happen on the click of a link. Otherwise, it's just a text. You can use it. You can use a p tag also for it. But if you want to link it, you have to have an href. Now this is an attribute. Okay. Now what is href? I'll just show it to you. What you can do is you can put in a link, right? So in our case, we are using GitHub because of the text. So in this href goes the link. Okay. Now this is a link. Okay. Now if I save this and I close, okay. So now if you check, it goes to GitHub, right? It goes to GitHub. This is what an anchor tag does. It is just it defines a hyperlink, okay, which is used to form a link from one page to another. Okay, so this is just a simple but important linking tag. Okay, and it has a property or an attribute. You can call it an attribute as the href. Okay, so there inside the href there is a link that you have to put in. Without the href, the blank href, it will just reload over here. Now another attribute that I will show you, suppose you might have seen in many cases that you put in a link, and if you want to, right, if you want to open that link on a new tab, right, there are many cases that you want to open the link on a new tab. What you will do is you will give in a attribute. Okay, you will give in an attribute called target. Okay, now what target does is it gives you a blank. Okay, now what, when you put this attribute with the value blank, the target attribute with a value blank, it will open your link on a new tab. Let's try it out. So if you see this, it opens on a new tab. Please trust me, just because of this tab of this zoom, I can't show you, but it is opening on a new tab. If you can just, if that so if you can see html and css here and github on another tab. Okay, so it just opens it on a new tab. Now what I want you guys to do is, instead of target blank, I want you guys to check what is self, what is parent, and what is stop. Okay, that is your exercise. Okay, you can so there are two exercises for now. You have to search for the image. Okay, image tag, how it works, and the second is the target. Okay, the target attribute, and inside the target attribute, now blank, what blank does is it opens it on a new tab. You have to find out what parent, self, and top does. Okay, you can do that much. If I do all everything, I mean, it will just take 3 days uh, out of our course. So let's not do that. Yeah, so this was it. I mean, this was about the anchor tag. Okay, now you have the image tag. Now let's jump on to the inline and the block level. Okay, inline and the block level elements. Very important, please, guys. Just stay with me for, I think it should take about 10 minutes maximum, but it is very important. Okay, and it is an interview question. Now, div. Okay, I'll just write something. Let's write this only. Okay. Now div is a block element. I will explain you guys what is a block element, okay, and what is an inline element. But for now, just keep up with me when I say div is a block element. Just believe me, okay. So div is a block element, and span. Okay, now span is another tag. Okay, span is one more tag, which is an example of an inline element. Okay, span. It is SPAN. Okay, span element. Now, if I save it, both look very similar, right? Both look very similar. I mean, similar what? They are the same actually. Uh, no font difference, nothing. So like you can't say that div gives out this and span gives out that. No. It you can differentiate it with div and anchor tag, but div and span no. Okay. I specifically took div and span because span is an inline element, div is a block element, okay, and anchor tag is also an inline element. But I didn't want you guys to see much difference in terms of the UI, okay, because I don't want to explain something on the terms of UI. I want you to see how it functions. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect. If you guys don't know how to inspect, you click right on your web page. Okay. There is an inspect element on the bottom. Okay. When you click on it, you get your console. Okay. So this is what a console, your console would also look like if you have the same code. I'm just going to zoom in now, zoom in for you. Okay. Now you see here all our HTML markup is also there. Okay. It is just I mean, you get your, see, this is the commented code, right? So this is a div that is there. I just remove it so that when you see now, there is no div ka commented code, right? But now inside this, okay. And again, okay, I'll just remove this also, okay, so that it doesn't confuse you. I'll put in later and I'll show it to you guys. But now I'm just wrapping it around the section, okay. Yeah, inside body section, see, you have div and you have span. Okay, now one is a block level element, one is an inline level element. So when I see, when I do this, when I hover over section, right, you see a blue part of the code, blue part of the web page that is being highlighted, right? Now you will see the difference between the div and the span. Okay, sorry, can you hear me? I don't. Yeah, I'm unmuted though. So yeah. So yeah, when you see the difference, I'll hover over one. Okay, I'll hover over the div. Okay. So now when the div is hovered, it is the blue part that is hovered, the blue part on the web page that you see. I told you guys that div is a block element. Okay. So now what the block element is, it takes the whole part of the web page. Okay. It stretches from left to right. Okay. Or top to bottom also. But now over here, the content is only till, only HTML. So the block element is only top to this much. I mean, the level of the content. But width wise, okay. When you see the width wise, okay, it takes the whole left part to the right part of the web page. Now, in my case, the screen is small, but if you are checking it on your page, if on your laptop, and if your web page is fully open, right? If I can open it for you guys, not a problem, but I'm just telling, right? So you see from left to right, the whole part of it. Okay. Now, when you hover over span, you see this. The blue part is only till the content. Wherever the content is ending, the span tag is ending. The blue part is ending. So this is what is a block element and an inline element. Okay. Now the block element you see here, when you click on div, okay, you get a style over here. Can you see this display block? Okay. Now this is a part of a CSS. Okay. This is, if you guys are not familiar with CSS, then don't get confused. But I'm just trying to show you that this is the part of a CSS, but it tells you that the display is block. Okay. Now when you click on span, it doesn't show you anything, but it is a display inline. Okay. Now it doesn't get you anything in CSS. Now anyway, I told you this is a part of the CSS. Okay, so don't get confused. But this is the major difference of a block level element and an inline element. Okay, the block level element stretches from the left to the right. Okay, the whole part of it, and the span element is the only the content. So for example, if you want, I can change some code here. Okay, so html and whatever, I'm putting in some random content. Sorry, I opened something. Yeah, but when you see this again, so the div is the whole element and the span should be till the till the content is ending, right? So that is what is a difference between a block level element and a span element. Okay, another homework for you is you have to write, or you don't have to write anything, but you have to try it on your laptop. Okay, you have to try 5 block level elements and 5 inline elements if they exist. I don't know how many elements are block and inline. You don't have to know how many, but you just have to know which are block and which are inline. Okay, so I'm just giving you one example. So div is a block level element. Okay, span is an inline element. Now let's see another tag, which is anchor tag. Okay, anchor tag https. I'm not putting any href. Okay, I'm just putting in github. Okay, I'm just going to save it. See, now you see there is one difference. Okay, now when you put in a block level element, right, when you put in a block level element, it takes the block and the next element is shifted below, right? So the next html that you see, why is it not next to here, right? Because it is stretching the whole part, right? So it is not giving any space for any other tag to make space for them, right? You understanding my point? So if it's the same way. If I tell you that, okay, I have a I have a seat, okay, which can fill in 3 people over here, but I won't let you do it because I am filling the whole part of it. Okay, I will just lie down on the seat, but you can't use it. So that is what a block level element is. I know the analogy is like very crazy, but you get the point, right? It takes in the whole block. It won't give you any space. Okay, it takes in the whole block, no space. But what the inline does is, okay, it tells you, okay, this is my space, I will stay here. You can sit in, you can fit in 10 more people until the block is, I mean, until the width of the page is done, right? So that is another difference between a block level element and an inline level element. Okay, so now again, by the looks of it, right, so the inline element takes in that much space. Now again, anchor tag is another inline element. Okay, so when you hover over it, when you see, anchor tag only takes in that much space. Okay, only takes in that much space. Now if I put in another div tag over here, okay, I put in another div tag. Okay. What it will do is, it will take another div. So it's not that, if you guys understood, see, the span element is an inline element. Okay, it is telling you, it is telling the block level element, I have space, if you want to fit in, you can fit in. But the div says, no, I don't want that much space, I am the block level element, so I will take the whole block. Okay, so that's what the difference is. I will show you in css how you can merge it also. Okay, but these are the default behaviors. Okay, so this is the default behaviors. Of course, in css you can change the you can change everything. You can just modify your whole web page. You can stick everything together, all block level elements, inline elements, you can stick together, but of course by giving some css to it, right? But these things are the default behaviors of of these elements. Okay, html elements. So another, I have given you 2 inline elements, I have given you 1 block element. So let's do one thing. I'll hover over section. So when you see section over here, when I've hovered over the section, again it takes the whole block, right? It is taking the whole block. So by the looks of it, you understood, right? It's a block level element and it's not an inline element. So you see here in the css part of it, this is the default css that it gives. So you see there is a display block here. I hope you guys can see it. If you guys cannot, I'll just zoom in a little bit more, right? So this is the major difference of the anchor tag. No, sorry. Major difference between the block level element and an inline element. Okay. So again, just to recap, I took 10 minutes. I'm just giving you a recap. But the block level element is a whole width. It shifts the other block level element or inline element to the next line. Okay. And the inline element is just the small content. It is just the only the width or only the space that it acquires as much as the content is. Okay. So that's the inline element. We will see many parts of it in CSS, how we use other display properties like, okay, so we have seen display block here, right? In CSS, there is display inline, there is display inline block, there is display flex, right? What all those things does, we will be discussing in the next 2 days. Don't worry. Yeah, so this was most about block and inline level elements. Now, this is just very basic, right? So let's do some more uh, designs or modifications on the web page. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'll be creating a form. Okay, now form is another web, another HTML element. Okay, you might have seen many form tags, right? Many forms on various pages, right? Various websites. They have your career. If you go to any websites where you want to apply for, as a web developer or anything, any role you want to apply, so they will have a form, right? A contact form or something like that. So another example in HTML is a form tag, right? So this is the form. Now what is the action? Now action is another attribute in form that comes with the uh, form tag. Okay, now what is action? You will be using an action to take it to another page. Not take it to another page, sorry. It is just the values of the form will be saved over there. Okay, so if the action is something like, for example, in terms of PHP. Okay, I'll talk in terms of PHP. Now PHP is another language, right? So you will have a login page. Okay, you will have a login page. So in the login page, you will create your form, right? But you want to save that form card details into some place, right? In the DB, right? So in that case, when you give the action as that page name, for example, the DB all the code is in db.php. So your action would be db.php. So all your data inside that form, everything that you are typing in and you are putting in, you are submitting the data, it is stored inside that file and into the DB, right? So that is just what an action attribute is. Okay, now inside form, now again, as I told you, it's very important that you wrap around the things. Just say we did it for the div, right? We did it for the section, and we did it for header or footer. So again, everything that comes inside the form, for example, your first name, last name, and everything, it should be wrapped around inside the form. Okay, so inside form we have two. You can put in many things, but the basic two things is the label. Okay, so there's a label tag. Okay, now what is a label? Label is something that you see on top of your contact or your input field. Okay, you will get to know what it is after I just code it out. So just give me a minute. I'll just put in. So there are two tags inside a form. Okay, one is the input and one is a label tag. Okay, now inside the input tag. Okay, now you remember I told you guys that not all not all tags have a closing. Okay, now input tag is one such example. Okay, input tag does not have a closing. So input tag works this way only. This is just the input tag. Okay, it's that much.
Excuse me,
And
sir.
yeah,
Sir, Amruta has a doubt. Does the form tag need to be used inside the section tag?
yes, you can. So what is a section here, Amruta? Section is just a wrapper. It is just for you guys to, just take a note of okay, it's a section of a contact form. So if you are making a section, the section just goes by the name, right? Anything you have is a section, right? So you can have 10 blocks of something, right? So it is just a section, right? So you can wrap those things inside the section. If you want to remove it, you can remove it. It is just my personal a preference that I'm just putting in the form element inside the section tag. Okay. Yeah, I hope that was clear. And so now let's see this. Okay, I'm putting in a label, and I'll just say first name. Okay, I'll save it. Now what do you see? You see is your label. Okay, this is your label. Okay, this is your label, and this is your input type equals to text. So this is your input type equals to text. Okay, now what is type equals to text? Okay, there are various things, right? In type, you can get a type of submit, you can get a type of um, email, you can get a type of password also. So let's try this. Let's try password. Okay, and I'll just put in the label as password, and type in here. You see the type has just changed, right? You can't see what I'm typing, so that is how the input gives you various ways, right? So when I put it as a text, you can see my text, right? You can see what I'm putting in. I'm just putting the first name, and I'll put in your Siddharth, right? So you can see my text, right? So that is what the type is here. So so that is what a type is here. There are various types. Okay, there are various types. You have submit type, you have um, password type, you have email type, you have text type, you have number type. Let's see what a number does. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
sorry to disturb you. We have another doubt. Ahana is asking, what is the significance of action attribute in form tag?
As I just said, Hana, the action is it's just a normal attribute that it defines the action to be performed. Okay, it defines the action to be performed when the form is submitted. Okay, so usually the form data is sent to a file, right? So whenever you create a contact form, okay, so you put in your details, right, and it has to be submitted somewhere, right? So the action attribute just defines the action to be performed when the form is submitted. So, and the form data is sent to a file on the server when the user, clicks the submit button, right? So when you click on submit, it goes to the server. So that is what it is. I mean, we are not sending anything, right? We are not sending any data to any file or server. So we are keeping it as blank. In future, if you perform a contact form, and if you create a contact form, and if you want to save that data to somewhere or into a file or into the server, usually you the good habit is just put in a file. Okay, you put in a file, and in that file you write all your server level code. Okay, so this form will, when it is submitted, it will go to that file, and that file will perform all your server level code, and then that piece of code is saved in your database. Okay, so that is what is action. It is just used to it is just defines the action to be performed when the form is submitted. That's it. Nothing very major. Okay, but it is very important. Okay. Yeah, so I have just created the type number. Okay, let's see what it does. So here, when you see your when you focus on it, or when you click on this input type, so you get this, right? So 1 2 3. So this is what the type number is. Okay, so there are various types. Okay, like various, there are button. So there is, see, for example, let's do this also, because we are doing the forms, so let's do it properly. So I'm just creating a button. Okay, so whenever you want to create a button, you put in the type as button. Okay, and you give a label. So this is what a button is, but it looks very bad though, but it's just a button. Okay, you can click on it. Yeah, so that is what it is. I mean, that is what it is. But let's see if I can write something over here. No, you can't. This is the property actually. Yeah. So I'll just put in the text value again. But of course, there are various things. There is a checkbox also. So let's do this checkbox, and I'll do this one, and I'll take in example, I'll take in 2 here. You see this? So this is another checkbox. Then of course, if you have a checkbox, then you have a radio, right? So you know what the difference between a checkbox and a radio is, right? So the checkbox, you can have multiple. In radio, you can have only one. If you want to see it, let's do that too. I'll put in the type as radio. Okay, there's 1 and 2. It becomes a circle. This is 1, this is 2, right? So this is what a radio is. Okay. Also, there is password that we've seen. There is number. There is email. There is submit. There is search. There is text, time, URL. There are various types, but you get the idea. That is how you write something. Okay. Let's just create one form. Okay, it won't have any action, but just a simple form. Okay, so let's remove this. Okay, now let's simply just put in a last name and a first name and just a submit. Okay, so what we will do is we'll put a label. Okay, now what is a for? Again, it is a good it is a good practice to write a for. Okay, why? Because whenever you write a for, what it tells you is, I'll just show it to you. So now, for example, first name. Okay, and I'm putting the input. Okay, the type is text, right? The input type is text. Okay, and when you want to put in here, so what I have to do is, so now what this does is, what is a for attribute is, I'll just put in some value over here, and I'll just put in some value over here. So what I am doing here is I'm doing an ID. Okay, I'm putting an ID. I hope you guys know what is ID and class. So class is something that we will be using in CSS a lot, and an ID also. But the ID and class are attributes that you can give to every element. Okay, it's not restricted to any particular element. For example, now type you can't give to anchor tag, right? You just have to give it to input. But ID and class, it's basically for every element you can give ID and tag, ID and class. Okay, so ID is something that is uniquely identified. Okay, and class is something that you can call. I mean, we will talk about it in CSS, because if I tell you now, you won't understand it much. But just keep in mind that there are two attributes that you can give to any tag, which is ID and class. Okay, we will talk about it. Don't worry. So now over here, the for is first name here. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this in the ID. Now what this is, it's just a basic writing way, to write a form. Okay, it's just a way to write a form. What this tells you is this label. Okay, this label first name is for first name. Okay, and this for should be equal to this ID. Okay, so your for attribute and your ID attribute, uh, the value of these attributes should be same. Okay, what it just tells you is this label is for this input. Okay, nothing more. So just like first name, we will be creating a last name also. I'll just do this. What I just did is, I'm just taking all the same thing. Okay, and I'm control I am using a Windows of this operating system. If you are using Mac, you might do Command D. What I am doing is Control D. So I'll just copy this, Control D, Control D. Okay, sorry, I'll just press in the Control F also. But Control D, all three things are being selected, and I can just backspace it. Okay, and because I have to put all the values as same, that is last name, so I'm just putting it over there. Okay, right, just a handy fast method to do something. And just like this, we'll create a button. Now how I just showed it to you, but what you can do is when you are using VS Code, you might get many recommendations like this. So just do check them out. I just told you guys about, checkbox and date and email. Okay, age also. So there is this button also over here, and when you put in type button, you get a value, right? So if you as we had just seen, when we created a button before, we did not have any value inside it. It was just a small gray box, right? So when I save it, you will get this. But when you put in the submit button here, submit value here, you will get the button. Of course, it looks very ugly, no spacing in between, but those things we can hop onto in our CSS section. But this is what a simple form looks like, right? So in my case, it looks very bad because it's small, but this is how it looks. First name, last name. Okay, this is how it is, and I submit it. Nothing will happen because Ahana, if you are paying attention, then there is no action attribute here. That is why nothing is happening. But first name, last name, and submit. If you have an action attribute, and if you have something specified in the action attribute, then that, so after submission, the data is getting saved to a page or a server or a file, just as I told you. So that is what it is. Okay, so this was about form. You can try various things. Okay, please do try, guys. Of course, 1.5 hour, 1 hour, 2 hours is not enough to make you understand something, but I try to give in some basics so that you know where to go that with that thing, right? So I have told you about the normal text and the button type, right? I have given you the example of age type also. So what you guys can try is, you guys can create a nice contact form. Okay, if it's not, I mean, if it's not presentable in the CSS manner, it's fine. If you guys know about CSS, then much better, you can just design your own contact form. But this is how it's done. You put in your input type and you put in your label, right? So this is the button. What you guys can do in the exercise is, put in your first name, put in your last name, put in your phone number, put in your date of birth. Okay, and what else can you do? Put in a description. Okay, description box. Now when I tell you description, your first thing that you think about should be, the description wouldn't fit in this, right? So now I write Siddharth, and that's my first name. So but what if I want to write a description called as, hi, I am Siddharth, I'm a web developer, and ye wo. So you know what this is doing, right? You can't see anything. So you have to search, how would you put in a description. Now I gave you some types, right? One type I did not mention, and that is what you will be using in the description. Okay, you guys, if you guys know, it's really great. I hope you guys did enjoy this session. We just completed forms. Okay, uh, I mean, we have not gone into much of the detail where we are covering all of the types. That is why I'm giving you this exercise. Just create a nice contact form on your own. Phone number, date of birth, description. Three things to be added. Okay, all and these three things. I hope that you guys did these things. But apart from this, other three things. Okay, so that would be about forms, and that would be about I think 75%, not 75. See, I'm not covering everything because time constraints, obviously. But these are the things that you will be coming across every day in every project, in every, when you are working, when you are even working also, you won't be using much of the, other tags, um other aside and stuff like that. There are many tags, but these are the things that you will be working on more. So but do try, I mean, do give it a try. Do try to give out more examples as much as you can. Try to surf the internet, try to read about it more. The best resource is MDN, called as Mozilla Developers Network. It's the best resource where you can learn about HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Okay, most of the web things you can read about over there. Okay. Apart from forms, there is one more thing that we will be covering, I think tomorrow, because it's already 9. We'll be covering tomorrow about tables. We'll create a nice table. Okay. If you guys are very curious or enthusiastic, you can try it on your own also, but I will be covering it tomorrow. Okay. So today's exercise is image tag target equals to what properties, okay, what values in the property. Create a contact form also. I think that was it. No, also block and inline level elements. Try it out. Try to figure out how you can differentiate between a div and between a block and inline. Make sure that you are using your inspect as much as you can. Okay, this is a very, very important, very handy tool that the Chrome gives us. Okay, also Internet Explorer, I think it gives, many browsers give you, but of course if you must be using the Chrome, so it gives you the console. You can always do a lot of things in uh, this tool. I mean, with the help of this tool, you can write anything. You can put your styles also over here, right? So do try to explore. Don't restrict yourself. Um, Tomorrow we will be continuing with HTML tables. Then we'll just wrap around and give a small recap of everything. And after that, we'll jump into CSS and make this contact form look good. Okay. So I think that was it from my side. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us such an amazing lecture. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's session and we'll meet tomorrow at the same time. So if you have any doubt, kindly let us know so that we can solve it. Otherwise, we may end the session then.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye. See you tomorrow. Please, please.
Sir, most of them are asking about the assignment.
I just gave you some assignments, right? I mean, this is just the exercise. This is your assignment, guys. Please, I mean, you don't have to, restrict yourself, because if I give you some 2 problems, it's never enough. It's never enough. The assignments will never be enough. Okay. So don't take it as an assignment. You are not in, I mean, even if you are in college, then don't keep that, mindset that you will get an assignment and you will work on it. If you want, I can give it to you, but don't restrict yourself. You have to try to explore everything you can. Okay. In the assignment, I'll give you, okay, do these two contact form ka inputs, and you're done. But that is not it, right? You have to explore. Even when you are done with this contact form of three input types that I've given you, try to explore more. Try to add on some more contact us inputs that you want. Just try everything. Try everything in HTML, whatever we have seen. That's your assignment. That's it.
Okay, sir. So, guys, basically, the assignment thing is not compulsory. It is just for you to practice. So it's up to you. Like I would suggest, like you should practice so that you will be able to come up with the doubt the next day.
Yeah, and sorry, I just saw a comment from Fiona Obed. I'm only 12 years old. I'm really, really happy for you, Fiona, because you're only 12 years old and you are interested in HTML and CSS, hopefully. Thank you for attending. And extensions used, Saket, the extension that I'm using, there are a lot actually. But see, for the black theme, okay, for the black theme, you can use Atom One Dark theme. Okay, better comments, you don't need to use it. Code Snap is basically just I'll show you what Code Snap does is. So what it does is, if you have been on LinkedIn or somewhere, right? So you see these code snippets, right? So these are the code snippets that it takes, and this is how you save it, right? So when you click on this circle, it takes a snap of it and it saves the image. Okay, so that's just a code snap. Extension that you should have for now is live server. Okay, one is live server and one is prettier. Now, what is prettier? Prettier is a code formatter. Okay, uh, your code should look clean, right? So when you see my code, it looks clean because I have indented it properly, right? So what Prettier does is, for example, I'll just put in the label, I'll remove that label, okay, and I'll paste it over here, okay. And now when I save it, see, it does something, right? It does something. So that is what is Prettier. I mean, it just takes your code and it just saves, right? See, when I saved it here, I saved into a nice line, right? So that is what. So two extensions, Prettier and what, live server. Okay, Prettier and live server, very important for us. Okay, Notepad is better. I don't know, Yogya. I don't know. I have never used Notepad because see, we are working on a big application level, so we can't use Notepad for it. Okay. Sir, you said to provide some resources at the end. Yeah, Nancy Nair. The resources, actually, I'll just tell it to you. Just search for MDN. Okay, just search for MDN and just search for OSI model. You will get a lot of resources. Okay, MDN is the already a resource only. So MDN has HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Okay, OSI model is a topic. You can find many blogs on it. You can find many videos also. If you are a video person, go on YouTube, check what is OSI. And if you are a blog person, then just go on Google. Okay. Um, right. So I think we are done. Sir, I'm a commerce student. Is web development help me in future? Please answer me. It will be Surya. See, every stream is different. I mean, if you have interest in web development, do it. Don't, please guys, don't do anything for money. Okay, everything has money. Even if, I mean, I know it's a very filmy dialogue, but it's very true. Okay, if you do something for money, you will do it for 5 years, you will do it for 7 years, 10 years, but after 10 years you will be bored because you don't like your job. Okay, that's what happens. And it's very true. I'm telling you, I'm not saying something like I'm not seeing something like Three Idiots and Ye Jawani Hai Diwani dekh ke, I'm not giving you these dialogues. Okay, but it is very true. So Surya, if you are a commerce student, if you enjoy commerce, do commerce. If you enjoy web development, of course, it's good. It will, everything will help you in future. So your question is a little this, will it help me in future? It will help you in future, but the first thing is that you should like it. You should enjoy what you're doing. Okay, you should have that curiosity that, okay, I want to try something. Yeah, that's it. I think how to make it, sorry, last, I'm sorry, this is the last. Manorath, sir, I have a doubt. As a label and input as inline, how to make it block as all the attributes of the, right? So what you can do is, Manorath, that is where you have to give a CSS called display block. Okay, try to give it, try to implement that. If you also paste the same thing on Google, the same question on Google, it will give you the solution also. But I don't want you to jump into the solution. Try to give display block. Okay, it's a CSS element. If you know how to give CSS element, then go ahead. If you can wait till tomorrow, we'll do it tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank
Okay,
you,
sir.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Just a reminder, I hope all of you have marked your attendance already. If not, kindly mark it up because it is very much compulsory for you to mark the attendance in order to be eligible for the examination.
Yeah. Also,
Thank
guys,
you.
if you liked the session, go ahead on LinkedIn and please endorse me on HTML. It would really appreciate. I would really appreciate it. I would really appreciate it because I mean I would think that you guys did like the session. Just endorse me on HTML. My account is Siddharth Gaglani on LinkedIn. Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you.